Hey folks, welcome back to the Portable Gamer. Welcome back to American Truck Simulator, and welcome to Los Angeles, California. We are going to go pick up a loader, and we're going to start heading up north. I don't think we're going to make it all the way up north to our destination in this episode, and it is afternoon, so it may get dark on us, but that's fine. You can see as we get started up here, I did swap out the headlights, and we are now running the Ghost Ring style DRLs. And we need to go with doubles to do that. We can't get them on a single. I would prefer the single, the old 359 style, but what can you do? Let's get this, we're going to make this smaller. We don't have sat-nav in-dash, so we'll need to leave that up. And I think, yep, we're fueled up. We just slept. I think we're all ready to go. We got to go 3 miles to pick this thing up. Here we go. So what is going on? It's Saturday for me. It's going to be Sunday for you when you see this. I really like being on this new schedule. And when I say new schedule, I mean no schedule. I really like just coming in here and recording whatever I want. And I hope it's brought some, brought some sparkle back to the channel. I feel like we were getting a little bit stale. So hopefully we can move away from that, freshen things up a little bit. So, yep, it has been a really good week. It's been a strange week, but it's been a really good week. I guess we'll get the housekeeping stuff out of the way first. The only real announcement that I saw this week is for Train Sim World 2020. And there's going to be a new DLC releasing on February 13th. It is the Baby Bullet, which is going to be in the Peninsula Corridor route in California, Northern California. And we don't have a price on it yet. It's only a couple weeks out. We don't have a price on it yet. I would assume, since it's a loco and not a route, probably $19.99 US. We'll see. We'll see. And the other thing that is super, super cool is, and this may take up a big portion of our trip today talking about this, but I reinstalled FS17 because a map dropped by one of my favorite map makers, and I went ahead and reinstalled 17, and I think I've confirmed for myself. I've clarified, and if you watch that video, you know exactly what I'm about to say. I think 17 is the direction we want to head in as realistic sim farmers, at least until Master Bite Brains, the Cattle and Crops crew. If they get themselves together, if they can pull that off, and I hope they can, I'm not exactly a fan. Me and that crew had a bit of a falling out. But I want everybody to succeed. Even people that I'm angry at, I want them to succeed. I want everybody to be successful. So I hope Cattle and Crops can be successful, both for that crew and the time and effort that they've put into it. And I know they have been, they've really just been grinding for 5 years, 6 years. So yeah, of course I want them to succeed. And also because I think Cattle and Crops could be the realistic farm sim that takes us into the future. FS17 it was released in 2016. It's 2020 now. So, I mean, it's solid. It's a solid game. That's what I talk about in that video, and I'll tell you that right now. It's solid, and it's fun, and it's got great mod support, and it's good to go. I don't know if it's going to still be good to go in another 3 or 4 or 5 years. And so for that reason, I hope Cattle and Crops can do what they have always, I believe, aspired to do, which is to make a very realistic actual farm simulation. I'm going. An actual farming, don't mount the curb. Concentrating, talking, trying to do too many things at once. A proper farm sim, rather than just a farm game. So we'll see. But it's been the map that I downloaded is called the Western Shore. That is available from Simply Safe Mods, and it is an absolute masterpiece. It's a gem. If you're into farm sim, please do check it out. And also on Simply Safe Mods, you will find the Sky Swap and Sky Boxes pack, and that will definitely bump your game experience up as well. So that is, that's been super cool. It's fun to sort of revisit a favorite game, and I have to say FS17 was probably my favorite in the franchise. I was only on 15 for just a few months before 17 came out, and then obviously 2 years after that. 19 came out. I've been on 19 for about a year. But I think 17, for a lot of reasons, is my favorite farm sim. So it's really nice to be back in it. It's also really nice to sort of dive back in it and be able to do in just a few hours what it took, well, almost 2 years to do the first time around, which is sort of amass and curate and collate and coordinate all those mods, particularly the scripty mods that don't always play well together. You know, that's something that, if you know farm sim, and I guess truck sim is the same way. You know, when you get all your mods working together, there's a very satisfying feeling. Lock it down. Bet it. That is your stone cold lead pipe lock. That's your pick. Don't touch anything. And it takes quite a while to do it the first time. But this last time, jumping into FS17, because I had already done it, I was able to just sort of hop back in and do it all again. And it went really, really quickly. All right, so we're pulling in here carefully.
It's all over.
Oh, all right. It's a little morbid. Right. So we'll stop right here. Get down to neutral. Set the brake. Let's pick up our job. I got rid of our owned trailer. I realized that there are some interesting and funky trailers that you only get when you... Oh, where's our job? There it is. There are some interesting and some big and some funky trailers, not necessarily the special transport cargoes, but just the heavy cargoes, right? Where you've got the articulated trailer with the Jeep and the Stinger and the whole deal. Now, this trailer doesn't have any of those things, but you only get those jobs when you pick up the trailer. I don't think that I mean, you can get a mod for it, but I don't think that type of trailer is available to purchase just yet. All right. Get swung around here and get hooked up. And then the other announcement, I guess. I say announcement like anybody cares. I'm just talking at you while we drive the truck. You know how we do. But it's certainly not anything of importance. We're just shooting the breeze. Right. Get her back to neutral. Bring up the landing gear. There's our hoses. Beautiful. And it is, it's 4:30, so the sun will be setting as we head north. Fantastic. Hop right back in here. Put her in gear. Here we go. This thing's not that heavy. I want to say it's about 30,000 pounds. Not terribly heavy. So, you know I was on that Uplay Plus. You know I was on the Division, and then I was on the Division 2. You know I was on the Ghost Recon Wildlands, and then I was on that Ghost Recon Breakpoint. You know the whole progression. Well, I'm into Squad, and the thing about Squad is it's big. It's like, I mean, you can do a pickup game, but to play it properly, there's got to be a lot of communication, a lot of coordination, a lot of planning. And you've really got to know what you're doing, and the people you're playing with have to know what they're doing, and it's a big ask. It's not necessarily a steep learning curve, but it's a long learning curve. And I'm into that, but you know, sometimes I want my fix a little quicker, a little sooner. So I went ahead and took the plunge, and I got that Escape from Tarkov. And it is everything that I wanted it to be. It is everything that I hoped it would be. It is everything that I've heard it was on the good side, and it does not have some of the negatives that I've heard on the bad side. It's very, very cool, and I'll tell you about it as we drive here. I'll try not to talk your ear off about it, but I mean, this is what we do when we drive the truck. We talk about gaming. And there's actually a point to this, a point greater than me just wanting to tell you about this very cool game that I found. There's a larger point that, well, maybe even two larger points, but we'll get to that in time. So it is a first-person shooter. You can play with a small squad. I believe the most people you can have on a team is 5. You get dumped into these relatively gigantic play areas. There's you, there are other players, other players on your team, if you're on a team, and other players not on your team looking to kill you. And there are also AI bad guys. And there's various ways that you can get into it. Some of them have more risk than others. But the thing about Tarkov that really fascinates me is what you take out of the raid 20 to 40 minutes later, you keep. And what you took in with you, if you lose, if you lose that gear, it's gone. Now you can get insurance for it. But that's if it stays in the game, right? So if somebody kills you and comes over and loots your dead body and takes your stuff, it's gone, whether you have insurance or not. Now, if you're playing with a team, your buddy can pick it up for you and bring it out. And there's various ways to, whatever. But it's a very unforgiving game. It is extremely tactical. It is extremely realistic in that very often you do not hear the shot that kills you. I prefer playing at night, and I really like playing in the rain. And there is something very thrilling about seeing some fool creeping, and you just shoot them in the head while their back is turned. Now, my kill-death ratio at this moment is about 1, which means every time I kill somebody, I am getting killed. And maybe not at that moment. But for people that, and we're going to lean over toward making a political statement here, which I do not do on this channel. I take no political stand on anything. This is not a place for politics. It's not a place for serious topics. We talk about gaming here. But we also, we exist in a reality. And there are some realities that are significant enough that they're worth mentioning. And what I just described, that's pretty rough, And the fact that I get killed as much as, or more often than I do the killing, doesn't necessarily make it okay. That's still kind of a brutal reality. And how I would sort of mitigate that is that there is no, this is not a trivial game. It is extremely stressful. And it's very fair. I know a complaint that people have about violent video games is the sort of shooting gallery aspect of them. Where you're just kind of mowing people down, arcade style. I think that really bothers people, some people. And I can understand why. Because that's not necessarily the way that I want to entertain myself. And it was something that always kind of frustrated me about something like The Division, where it's so cartoony and, there's a lot of mag dumping. Tarkov is not cartoony. And I think because you get killed as much as you kill other players and AI, there is a sort of a constant reminder that this game is, I don't want to say fair, that's probably not the right word that I'm looking for, but it doesn't necessarily celebrate violence, because if it does, then you are celebrating your own demise, at least in my case, every bit as often as I would be celebrating somebody else's. Does that make sense? There's nothing cartoony about it. There's nothing trivial about it. It is, in a lot of ways, a simulation. And it's sort of a grim simulation. It's difficult. It's very difficult. It's very satisfying when you get it right. But it is, if an argument against that type of video game is that it celebrates violence, my argument in return would be it does not celebrate violence. The only thing that I celebrate when I play Tarkov is actually surviving. And there have been plenty of raids where I had no contact with anybody. I was just creeping. I just crept around, right? Looted gear, either from caches or from dead bodies, and did my very, very best to avoid everyone, NPC and player alike. So it is, for what that's worth, it is not, I don't know. It's not a fun game. Not fun like that. I'm reminded of, it was Battlefield 1. Yeah, Battlefield 1 was the World War One, game. Yeah, I have to say game. It's not really a sim. But we're going to reroute here. But I heard some people talking about Battlefield 1, which didn't do terribly well. It was a gorgeous game, but it didn't do terribly well. And something that I heard a lot of people saying is the reason it didn't do well is because World War One is just such an awful. It's like a stain on our collective humanity. What we did to one another in World War One, it was horrible. It was horrible. 50,000 people die over a few yards of territory. And then 2 weeks later, another 50,000 die, moving it a few yards back. It was just unbelievably brutal and pointless. And I think on some level we recognized as gamers, whether we were able to articulate it or not, I think we recognized as gamers, like, yeah, man, that's not necessarily fun. That's not a fun thing to do. And at the same time, it was not serious enough to have that milsim aspect to it. So Tarkov for me is it's satisfying, but it's not necessarily fun. Not just because of, sir. Oh dear. All right. Right there in my blind spot, but we made it. No damage. Not just because of the sort of grim context that you're playing in, but because it's like I said, you're happy just to survive. At least I am. I mean, maybe when you get better at it, or maybe there are people that play it in a completely different way than I do. But for me, I'm just looking to survive. Come on, let's find a good gear here. Surely there's one. There's one. Now, I'd also heard that there is no in-game communication. You got to be on Discord or TeamSpeak. You got to set up your own comms. But I'd heard there was a little bit of teabagging, that there was a little bit of, that sort of thing. I find that to be very, very frustrating. And the fact that I find it to be very, very frustrating probably makes me a really fun person to direct it towards. Why would you bother? Why would you bother antagonizing somebody that doesn't care? Now, you want to antagonize old ill will, because you'll get to me. Oh, you will. You know you will. So there aren't any in-game comms, and as far as the rumors of teabagging and victory laps and that sort of thing, there's really not a lot of that, and I'll tell you why. Anybody can kill anybody in this game if you hit them in the right place with the right gun. And so it's, there's definitely a better gear, there's stronger armor, there's more powerful weapons, but you can shoot somebody in the head, right? So the idea that, if you take somebody out, another player, you're not really going to celebrate that. You're going to grab their loot as quickly as you can and get the hell out of there, because they're buddy or an NPC or somebody. So there is not a lot of, when I've played with a group and we've been able to take down a party or take out players, keep left. All right, so we got to go over here quickly. Over here. Okay. Not as smooth as I wanted it to be. But yeah, there's not a ton of celebrating. You got to stay focused, and it's just a relentless game. It's really. I'm glad I'm getting in. It's still in beta. I mean, it's done. It's playable. It's just they're polishing it, fine tuning it, whatever. But I'm glad I'm getting into it now, and definitely a learning curve, and definitely some frustration. As sir. All right, very carefully. All right, this guy. And then I got this big truck behind me, sir. All right, let's get him out of the way. Jeezy Pete's. That was complicated. What are we at on time? 20 minutes. Okay, we're rolling now. Finally leaving LA. There we are. There we are. What the hell was I talking about? Tarkov. Yep. It is frustrating, and it is. Oh God, I'm OCD. You know that I've mentioned it before. I'm OCD. I am on the autism spectrum. I'm out at the far, what I think of as the far right side, the Asperger's side. I got the funny kind of OCD. I got the OCD you can joke about. I know some people do not. They have OCD that is very, very challenging for them. I've earned my stripes. I'm in the club, so I'm allowed to make jokes about it. But when I make jokes about OCD, please understand, I'm making jokes about my OCD, not yours. And if yours is something that you're struggling with, you got my sympathy, and I would never, ever disrespect you like that. I'm only ever heckling myself about OCD. Tarkov is the most gun-intensive game that I've ever been in, and I'm talking about like the guns themselves, building guns. I used to own a bunch of guns. I don't own any guns right now. When I started traveling a lot, it made sense to get rid of them. There's no way to really feel safe and comfortable being away from your guns for months at a time. I don't mean my own personal safety. I mean them being safe and well kept, under lock and key, that sort of thing. You can give them to a friend to hold, someone who's a responsible gun owner. That's it's okay, but it's one of those things like, just on that off chance, just that 1 in a million chance that their gun vault gets searched, and here's a bunch of guns that they don't own. Sir, what's going on there? You can transfer them to somebody with an FFL, and then when you get back, you got to go through the background check again to get your own guns back. It just became problematic. I got rid of my guns. But I did miss them. And I have to say, this is the next best thing, because it is, there are hundreds and hundreds of guns, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of parts. You can configure them any way you want. The new Call of Duty, right? You get to build your guns, you get to, right? That times, I don't know, 10, 100. It is an unbelievable amount of detail, and it's all accurate. It's real companies, it's real parts, and everything affects everything. So it's fantastic. It is, through the grapevine, it is, as iRacing is to Forza, Tarkov is to Call of Duty, right? Like, you think there's a lot of parts, a lot of options, a lot of ways to mod vehicles in Forza, until you start doing setups and tunes in iRacing. And then it's like, oh God, this is, my mind is blown. That is the same sort of ratio, right? It's 100 to 1. It's 1,000,000 to 1. It's just unbelievable. And I really, really like it. But I'm still a ways out from having all them cool toys. And that, I guess, is the second thing I wanted to sort of figure out today, talk about with you. There's a lot of different kinds of games. And there's a lot of different reasons to play games. I'm talking about video games now. And I don't know at any given moment whether I want to play a game to have fun, whether I want to play a game to be challenged, to have a really sort of satisfying outcome, whether I want to, learn something, figure something out. There's a lot of different reasons to play games, and they can be different every time you play. It's the great thing about them. It can be different every single time you play, or when you sit down, you can decide for yourself, what am I in the mood for? And I'm not talking about what kind of game. I'm talking about what kind of mood you're actually in, and that determines the game. And so I think about something like Farm Sim or Truck Sim, which is, I'm reluctant to say easy. I've put a lot of hours into these games, and I guess if you do something long enough, you just naturally kind of get good at it. But I don't think of these games as particularly difficult, particularly challenging. And then in the middle tier, I would say a lot of race sims, right? A lot more challenging, but still not impossible, particularly if you can sort of mess with the AI and get it to a place where it's difficult for you, challenging for you, but you still feel like you're actually playing the game and not just getting, you know what I mean? Not just getting hammered on. And then I guess the final tier would be something like iRacing, right? Or Sekiro or Tarkov, where it's just, God, why am I doing this to myself? And it is satisfying when you get it right, when you pull it off. But I think there's a balance that we need to look for as gamers. And it varies. You know, one session it may be here, the next session it may be somewhere else. I don't think there's anything as satisfying as getting it right. And, you know, I was talking to some people about Tarkov, and I said the learning curve is so steep. And their response was, well, are you just going to give up on it? Are you interested in a learning curve that's steep? That is that steep? And I told them, yeah, absolutely, I want to stick with it. And here's the thing about it, and you know this if you game, you know, a typical story-driven game is between, in this era, past few years, I would say post GTA 5, we're talking between 30 and 80 hours, main story. Time, 26 minutes. Let's pull in here. Let's pull in here and get pulled over, and we'll shut it down at 30 minutes. Between 30 and 80 hours. I know there's some games that are over 80 hours for main story, but let's just figure 30 to 80 hours. And you want that. We want that as gamers. One of my biggest disappointments with those Ubisoft titles was you grind and grind and grind to get this ultimate weapon. It's disappointing, and there's nothing to use it for. You don't need it for any particular task. So you grind to get a weapon. Now you have a better weapon. You can use it to grind to get better weapons. It's just a loop. But the feeling that you get when you have something that you worked for and you have no reason to have it, you have nothing to do with it, that's, I don't know, that's not a nice feeling. And so when I think about Tarkov and look down the road as, you know, how many months it's going to take me to get good at this game and to gather up all this cool gear that I want to play with, and I think, yeah, that's just about right. That is just about right. How disappointing would it be to get this game and within a few hours have every piece of loot there is to collect? What fun is that? So, as frustrating as it is, as challenging as it is, I think on some level, we as gamers, we like to wait. We want to wait, and we want to work toward goals. We don't just want to have everything handed to us, because then what's the point of playing the game? Right? What is there to do, and why? So let's get stopped here, and we're going to get down to neutral. Where are we at on time? 29 minutes. Perfect. So yeah, I think you see what I'm saying. I hope you do. But that's been my week. It's been, let's get a good angle here. There we go. It's been a fantastic week for gaming. I've had a great week. I hope you had a great week. And I do appreciate you stopping back to check out the Portable Gamer. See you next time. Take care now. Ooh, past this tree. Take care now. See ya.